Hi, I'm Kippy from kippyathome.com, and this is my daughter Olivia. We wanted to share with you how to make a face mask. I'm going to take mine off so you can hear me talk. But she made hers with the Cricut maker, and I'll post below so you can see how to make one too. And she does a whole video on how to make it, so check that out in my description. And mine, I'm going to show you how to make one like this, and I even have a downloadable pattern. So let's get started and get these things made. All right, let's get started. First thing we'd like to do is to gather up all our supplies, print out your pattern, or you can just cut out your rectangles of fabric, but I like a pattern. It's just kind of old school that way. So I'm going to cut out two. One is going to be of my face fabric, and the other one is going to be a lining. So I'm just kind of figuring out my placement, and then so I only have to cut once. I'm going to put one piece on top of the other. So the other polka dot fabric is for my ties. So that's going to be super cute, but I hate to use that for my lining since no one will see it. All right, so get it pinned and cut it out. Follow the dotted line. That is actually the line to cut on. Thank you so much for joining us tonight as we craft up super cute face masks. And I hope you'll subscribe. Just hit that bell so you don't miss a thing. We've got another face mask tutorial coming, and we did one on Facebook on how to make it with the Cricut machine, and that would be my daughter. I'll put the link to that below and the link for the pattern below, and you can just print it out and make it super simple. Now I'm going to get out that polka dot fabric, and I'm going to mark 2 inches along the whole width of it. I'm going to cut 2 strips the whole width of the fabric from selvage to selvage, and that is the uncut end to the uncut end. So I need 2 pieces of that. Using my water erasable fabric marker to mark my 2-inch mark all along my fabric for the ties. And once I get that all done, I can use a little ruler, or a longer ruler is even better, to mark along there and just cut that and do it 2 times, and you have your ties cut out. Super simple. Got my 2 ties cut out, and you can see those selvage ends, which we will be cutting off, but I haven't cut them off yet. And I'm going to use my bias tape maker, and this is the coolest tool ever. You'll use it for all kinds of things. Wait till you see how much fun it is. So I'm just going to load it into the back, and you can purchase it with the little tool that you put in that little slot, but I just use a pen. So I will put the link to that below, because you definitely want to get one of these, or maybe one in every size like I have them. And you'll be surprised on how many craft projects you'll use it for. So I decided I would make my own bias tape. Why buy it when, the bias tape you buy is just a solid color, and I wanted to make my mask fun. Plus, this is way less expensive. All right, here we go. So I'm just loading it in there. I'm trying to get it set it up so it folds in half. And then as it's coming out, I just kind of iron it, and you could just pull it along and it just irons. Is that the grooviest thing yet? I love it. And one I already had cut out and ironed. So you see it folds in half and then in half again, and then I fold it over itself. But when I go to sew them together, I back them up over each other, and you'll see in a second. So we have a nice clean end at the end. So when you wash it, it doesn't ravel. And these masks, I pre-wash all of my fabric and put it in the dryer. But when I wash them, every time I use them, every single time, they need to be washed, and then I let them air dry. I will also put a link to CDC on how to take care of your mask. So they also can help you and your family to stay safe. Front fabric and my lining fabric, and I'm going to place them right sides together. But before I get going, I'm going to cut about 4 inches of floral wire, and then I'm just going to use this little curl tool, and I'm going to curl down the edges, and I'm going to add that into the seam when I'm sewing it. And that is to keep your mask to stay neat over your nose. And I wear glasses, and they fog up without that piece of wire, so that's real important. But I also can wash it with it in there, and I haven't worried about it. Nothing has happened to it yet, so hopefully, fingers crossed, that's going to turn out great. But I don't put it in the dryer, and hopefully that'll keep it from ever needing to be replaced. This is going to pin the short sides, and we're only going to sew the short sides, and then we're going to turn. Here's one I've already done. I'm going to show you. So it's turned out. So those are the sides, and then once we sew it, we're going to turn it out like that, and we will press it. So let's get sewing. Let's get those. I'm just going to put 2 pins on each side, and when I put the pins in, I like to bury that point, so that point is not sticking you as you sew. It's a wrap, and we're going to come on over to the sewing machine. So follow me on over, and let's get this thing stitched up. Use white thread, just regular thread, and I'm going to go back and forth. I'm going to lock my stitch and take my pins out before I reach them. And I'm using a small, about 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, up to you, however you want to do it. It could be a 1/2 inch, you could use a 1/4 inch, but whatever it is, you're going to either make it wider or more narrow by your seam allowance. So I'm going to say, you know, a 1/2 inch is about right. And unless you are making it for somebody larger, which you might even cut the rectangles a wee bit larger. All right, so I'm just sewing along as I go, locking that stitch both ways, and then neatly cutting the threads. All right, now it's time to turn that mask outside correctly, and then press those side seams like I showed you in the green one a minute ago. And we're just gonna go over here to the pressing mat, and we're going to press it up. And I don't know if you have one of these quilters press and cut, you're going to love having one. And my little iron is just perfect, and I will definitely have that below in the description. You'll have a supply list, and as well you can go to my post. I wrote a post on my blog about making these masks, and there's 3 different ones on there, so you definitely want to check that out and get the other kinds of masks as well. My daughter also, her post is on there, so you can get on there and see about that. And those are the ones that are more fitted, maybe a little more, definitely maybe, yes, more complicated than this one. And I will be showing you all how to do another one, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that one. And I think the next one will have a little pocket in there for you to add a filter. So I'm marking my centers right now because I'm going to line up my centers with the centers of the ties. So when we go to sew it on, we'll line those centers up. Easily find a center by folding my ties in half. And you can see there's not a lot of technical to this, right? There's the half. And so I just grab my fabric marker and mark it on there. And then I do the other one like that, and then I pin them together. Now we're going to find where we've got those center marks. And we will use a little bit of water to remove them. They're real easy to remove those marks. So I'm going to actually start on the back. And the reasoning behind that is that when I turn it to the front, I'm going to top stitch it, and it'll actually turn out to look a lot neater. So I'm turning it all the way out. And that crease line that was made from when we had the bias tape maker, that original crease right there, we're going to stitch right on the outside of it towards the cut edge, just a little bit shy of right in the groove, just so the take up, when you go up and around that cut edge, it'll turn out perfect. You just have to trust me on this one. And then we're going to figure out where our top is, because that is going to make a difference when we put our little piece of wire in. And now I'm going to cut off the selvages. We do not want those selvages, and you can cut them off before you even make the tape, but you can see the selvages. I cut those off. They're very thick and they're very hard to turn. It won't make a neat piece, so now they'll be easier. So I'm going to turn it back towards itself, put a pin in it, and I'm going to do all 4 tie ends like that. It's 2 ties, 2 ends each for 4 ends. So we're going to go like that, and we're going to do a little tiny seam back and forth, and then we're going to end up with a nice, neat, clean edge like that you can wash, and it will not be raveling. So it'll be nice. Here we go. Taking it to the machine. We're going to back and forth to lock the stitch. We definitely want that to last. All right, after we sew that little end together, we take it off, clip it, and turn it. And what we're trying to do is make a seam on the inside, so when I sew the tie closed, it will be a nice neat end. So just kind of flip it over, and I actually use my nippers, not the best tool, but there is a turner tool, and I can put that in the description below. And it's the proper tool for this, and not to use your seam ripper or your nippers to do it. But I just wanted to put the video together and not spend any more time looking for everything. So here we go, we're turning it, and then I'm going to just stitch it closed, and then I'm going to put a little pin in there just to hold it. But as you know, I'll just use the edge of my foot, my presser foot. And now here I am again. I'm going to turn it back towards itself, put that pin in there, sew across there, and then turn it, and then it would that inseam will be on the inside. So it'll make a nice, neat finish, because you're going to be washing and washing and washing these, because you're supposed to wash them according to CDC every single time you wear them. So that is why you need to make sure that they don't have a bunch of raw fabric there, because it'll just shred. Okay, so here I am using my nippers, and like I said, there is a turn tool, and hopefully you have one, and it will make it a lot neater. All right, I place a pin in that, and then we're going to get started on our mask front. And we're going to add our bias tape to it, and we're going to start just inside that crease, or just outside of it. So you have a little extra room when you go to turn it, because some of that's what they call the take up, and it'll make it neater. So just go along, back stitch to lock your stitch when you start, and then remove your pins as you come to them. Bias tape over on the front, and we want to make sure that we cover the stitch line that we just made. So we want to pull it so it goes over that stitch line, so when I top stitch it, I don't see the original stitch line. So that's why I wanted to sew it starting on the back, so we'd be sure this is neat as a pin on the front. So that part is really I guess the complicated part, if you will, but this part is just where we're going to start on our ties. And I just kind of find a place on the foot, because you remember this thing is like 4 layers, so there's no way you're going to not grab some of it. So I just find a place on my foot and ride it along there. So it's in just a wee bit, and then I ride that, and I want to be very slow and careful when I get to the part that is actually the mask and not the ties, because we want to make sure that stays neat. That's where it's top stitched. So we're coming up to that, and then I'm going to take those pins out as I get there and go slow, and you'll see what I mean. Like, we're going to just pull the pins out. Sorry for my hand being in the way. So we're just going to go right over there, and so you can see I'm staying really close to that edge. So just go slow, turn your machine down, and just go real slow, and you'll get that perfect. It's easy. Same thing on the other side. However, this time we're going to add that piece of wire in there. So that'll be something a wee bit different. So we're just going to put it in there. And see how I'm doing that? And you can see where that little center mark is. And that's about all as measured as it is. And I'm going to kind of figure out where I want it in there, and kind of bend it and figure it out. But just to see where it might look like the ends of it would start. So I'm kind of finding where the center of it is to put it in my center. I don't have to spend that much time on it. It's really just kind of a simple thing. So we just put it back in there and stitch it closed. And then once it's stitched, I make like a little stitch at either end of it to just kind of hold it in there, hold it in place. You can feel where that little piece of wire is in there. I can feel the ends of it, and I've got it pinned there, and my machine doesn't have to ride over that, and the needle's not going to hit it or anything, because I've have it up above that into the top crease, so it's not going to go, interfere with my sewing machine. So make sure you can feel it, and it's out of the way of the sewing machine, the stitch line. Now I'm going to find that where I feel that piece of wire, and I'm going to make a little close off my casing on either side of it to hold it in place. So I don't want it to slide out, end up in the ties, because it really makes it a lot nicer to wear when you have it formed around your nose. And I have ordered some nose clips, that's what they're called, and I can put the link to that below too. So, but until they get here, I'm gonna have to just use this wire. All right, I'm folding my mask in half just to find the center, and I'm going to do a pleat, and I'm going to do about a 1/2 inch, and as you can see, I'm not really going to measure it, and I'm pinning it on either side. I'm just getting that pleat in there. This does not have to be perfect. You can see they're just fun, and then you just kind of, I like to, I keep my nose piece to the top, and it's up to, everything's preference, but I want the pleats to go down from my nose, not up to my nose. So that's up to you, however you want to do them. That's the way I prefer to do them. All right, so I'm just going to give a quick press just to hold the pleats in place. But these pins, I love glass-headed pins, but somehow I don't have them in my workroom right now. They're in the other room. So I've used these. Make sure you don't iron over them unless they're glass. So I was careful not to melt them into my fabric. So now I'm using the edge of my foot, and I'm just going to stitch along there back and forth. And I like to start in the very top, a little extra along here that will not hurt. So go slow. Make sure you remove those pins before you run your hand over or the needle. And then when you get to the end, same thing, lock your stitch again, back and forth, and do the other side. And it is a wrap. Is this cute or what? Won't your neighbors just love to have one? You're working on them. You might take them to a friend, or leave one hanging on their front door. They'll love it. It's so pretty, and people are asking like, well, what are you going to do for Mother's Day? Well, this is a perfect gift to give somebody. I'm telling you, people have been loving it. My daughter's been donating them and making them for all kinds of people. She has made so many. Almost finished. I'm taking my last stitch in about like 2 seconds. Here we go. It's almost there. It's a wrap, guys. So I want to be trying this on and showing y'all how cute it turned out. And I hope y'all will subscribe and ring the bell. We're going to be making some more of these and some scrunchies to match. All right, y'all, have a safe and happy spring. Thank you so much. All right, that was fun. I'm glad we got to make a mask together, and I hope y'all enjoy making a whole bunch more. This is my daughter Olivia again, and she's made this cricket mask, and it also has a filter pocket, so you definitely want to check that out. I'll put that link below. And she made a scrunchie to match, and she made one for me. So I think I'm going to have a different one with each mask, that match. It's easier if you have long hair to put your hair up so it's not interfering with it, so it actually holds it up. All right, y'all, stay safe and healthy, and we'll see you soon.